Yat Shikado Shidanado Shekhasin Lodo Shidayona. Good morning, good day, my good relatives across the Navajo Nation and beyond. I want to greet all of you today, this morning, with very good thoughts and feelings. And I started the day with a prayer this morning. Today is June the 1st, 2023. It was today, 155 years ago, that our Navajo Nation signed a treaty with the United States government. So we call it Treaty Day. And I wanted to take this time to share some thoughts, to share some insights, so that I could stimulate your thinking, so that I could provoke your thinking also, that I could stimulate and provoke your feelings, and give you an angle about today, and then just the whole event that took place 155 years ago, and the teachings and what has emanated and resulted, as it turns out today, to contrast that. And so I appreciate the fact that we could visit with one another every now and then. 1 year ago, I did release a video as well for Treaty Day, and I wanted to add some more to that this year. And in 1868, the federal government and the Navajo Nation signed the Peace Treaty. Now, remember, we were held hostage for 4 years, from 1864 to 1868. That was after a federal policy, a federal initiative by the federal government, which emanated from the War Department. It was a warlike initiative. It was a battle. It was a combat-based concept that was put upon us. And so, based upon those military doctrines and based upon those military tactics, that's how we were rounded up and we were practically chased to Fort Sumner. The same military tactics and the same military doctrines were used along the way, which resulted in our women folks, elderlies, children, babies being shot to death. There was killing that took place prior, and there was killing that took place during the march, and there was killing that took place during the time we were held hostage at Fort Sumner. So earlier, I also released a Navajo version of what I'm talking about here today. And the stories that I shared did not come from libraries or some anthropologist that took a journal and printed it and wrote a book on it, nor did I ask anybody to do research and bring me the research. These are oral stories that I heard throughout the course of my life from people that I was around, grandmas and grandpas. They were told in the home. They were shared in ceremonies especially. They were shared in conversations that I happened to be witnessing. So those are the type of stories that I'm sharing with you here today. And in 1868, we signed that peace treaty. Now, remember, the peace treaty in itself, the document, and the thought and the intent behind the document was authored and written and presented by the United States government. Nowhere in there were our people made a part of the conversation. Nowhere in there that the federal government say, hey, Manuelito, come on over to the table here. Yo, Barboncito, come over here. Hey, Mr. Narbona, come over here. Let's sit down and let's devise an agreement here. Let's devise a contract here. Let's devise a peace treaty here. We want to have your input. None of that was done, ever. Zero. Rather, it was done and it was presented at gunpoint. The stories go that in such a way that we were given an ultimatum. You're either going to agree to this document, and if you don't, all of you are going to be hauled to Oklahoma or Florida. You're going to never go back. But in either for you to go back to your four sacred mountains, you have to agree to the terms that is written in here. So we were never given that opportunity ever. And that really transpired as time went along here today. So to this day, my good relatives, we don't have an education system where we were a part of that, of how to design it and to reflect upon who we are as Nahokatana. We don't have a judicial system that reflects our way of problem solving. Aten. We don't especially have a government that is premised upon our way of governance, the way that we govern ourselves, one another. Aten. All that we have today was given to us, forced down our throats at gunpoint. And today that's what we have. And so we had no choice. Then we didn't have a choice. Now, a good leader would not think about himself or herself. Naturally, Barboncito, Manuelito, Ganado Mucho, Narbona, and others, rather than them thinking about themselves, they thought about the people. What would be best for the people? They put the two options on the table. And it was better to go back to our four sacred mountains than have to be transported to Oklahoma or other states. Because that's where our soul is. That's where our hearts are. That's where our minds are. That is the essence of our existence as Nahokatana. No matter what we were going to agree to, that was the main goal at the time. And so they said, okay, we accept that with that in mind. Now, before the treaty was signed, there's a story that is there that my grandpas and grandmas told. This gentleman by the name of Chief Manuelito Hastich il-Hajjin, Hastich il-Hajjin, Hastich il-Hajjin. I'm Betahni, born for Tchatnis Zapni. My maternal grandpas are Kintlichinis, and my paternal grandfathers are Ishi. My Betahni side has lineages all the way back to Hasthinch il-Hajjin and his brother Hasthinch Ahyatli. They were warriors in the northern part of the Navajo Nation. And so this is where the stories come from. When that treaty was to be signed, Chief Manuelito said, wait, hold on. There's going to be a caveat to all of this. There's going to be a condition that I'm going to have to put on the table. My good relatives, talking to his people. I understand what's in this contract. I understand what's in this, what we're going to have to give up. I understand what we're going to have to accept into our lives. Western education, Western philosophies, Christianity, all these other things. I understand all of that. But we're willing to do that so that we could go back to where our umbilical cords are buried. But, special question. When we do that, let's learn everything about these people with the blue eyes and the blonde hairs. Let's learn everything that they know, their language, their ways, everything that they know, their government, their laws, even their religions. Let's learn that. Let's learn it to the point where we know it. Because we're going to use that to go back and counter an offense to the atrocities and the damages that they bestowed upon us. We're going to use that. We're going to use it as our advantage over them, because someday we're not going to allow this to happen to us again. Ever, 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 ever. So it was a tactic. It was a warrior tactic. It was a warrior spirit. It was a warrior language. It was a warrior way of doing things. It was a tactic that he talked about at that time. We're going to learn it so much, he said. We're going to learn all of it so much to where even one of our own Navajo people, is going to sit in that place that they call Kinahadkri, Washington, D.C. He's going to sit over there, or she's going to sit over there and be a leader. That was what was prophesied by Haskin Chief Manuelito. So let's learn this, and that would be the tactic. In the meantime, do not forget. Let's not ever forget, though. However, let's never forget our language. Let's never forget our ways of thought. Let's never forget our own teachings. Let's never forget our ceremonies. Let's never forget our protocols and demeanors, how we live with one another. Let's never forget how we resolve problems, how we have a healing process. We have our medicines. We have our ceremonies. We have all of this that made us survive from the time immemorial all the way through the four worlds up to now. We were faced with atrocities of different forms and shapes and enormities, but we were resilient. We prevailed. We still exist today. So it is that prayer, it is that belief, it is that faith, it is that cultural teaching, it is that way of doing things, it is that frame of mind, it is that discipline that made us survive all the way up to now. And the same thing we came together with that is enabling us to go back to our four sacred mountains. Let's not ever forget. Because if we do, we're just going to be like one of them. We're just going to be like one of them. We're going to talk and we're going to act. Look at them. Look at what they did to us. That same mentality, that same abuse, that same pillaging, that same raping, that same theft, lying and cheating. That's what they did to us. Because if we forget our language, if we forget and do not believe in our own ceremonies, believe in our own laws and our own ways of doing things, our protocols, our if we lose all of that, we're just going to be like them. So be careful. Let's be careful. Let's never forget that. That's what Chief Manuelito said. That was the thought. That was the agreement. That was the unity. And the treaty was signed and we came back. Now today, we celebrate Treaty Day. We call it that. We say there's a treaty between the federal government and us, and we came back to the Four Sacred Mountains. We never talk about these teachings. We never talk about these parts of that day. We don't really necessarily acknowledge the warrior spirit of those leaders. We don't necessarily acknowledge that warrior mentality that they had. We never really say today should be Navajo Chiefs Day or something like that. But we just call it a Treaty Day. Rather, it seems like we concentrate on a document, a piece of paper that we didn't even write. We weren't even part of that. So let's think about this, my relatives. Let's think about this. Let's begin to think about what is it that these great leaders and chiefs used. What was their warrior spirit? What was their warrior mentality? What was it? And let's begin to really identify those. Right off the bat, it was Sotazan Otlam, prayer, belief in ourselves, our teachings, our own. And so these are the kind of things that we're talking about. These are the kind of things that I think that we need to consider, take a step back. And instead of just saying Treaty Day, let's talk about how we prevailed, what was used, the mentality that's there. The tactic. It was a tactic, and it is still a tactic. Now, let's take it to today. It was great. It was wonderful to have attended several graduations across the Navajo Nation this past several weeks. A lot of our good relatives, their children, my nieces, my nephews, grandsons, granddaughters, however way that I'm related to them, they graduated. They got their promotion from junior high to even kindergarten. Junior high to high school, and then their high school graduations. And then there are some college graduations, university graduations, all of that. All of that's good because we feel that education is important. Yes, it is important. It is very important. It is something that is almost inevitable. Western education, that's the predominant education that we have today. Westernized education. Now, those are all good. I celebrated with them, even prayed for them, even all of that, even burned cedar, bestowed chadadin upon them, talked to them. It's all good. I celebrated that. But it also got me to think about something, my relatives, which I'm going to share with you today. And for you to ponder on it, consider it, think about it, and to provoke your thinking as well. As I sat there in the graduation, a lot of speeches were made that congratulations, you did it, it was hard work, this and that you have a degree now, you're a high school graduate, you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, and those that got their doctorates, your doctorate degree, so we can call you doctor now, this and that. I heard all of that. Now, it got me to think, about what said, Chief Manuelito. He said, this is only a tactic. We are going to learn all of this for a reason, so that we could so we could counter what was done to us. And number two, so that we will not let it happen again. So that our language, our ways of life, our ceremonies, our sacred sites, our protocols, and our different ways of doing things as Nahokat and that could always be there and survive. It's not going to be held hostage again. So I thought about that. And so as I was thinking about that, I thought, hey, wait a minute. How come we don't embed that into our educational systems? How come we don't have the time or the forums to tell our young people about that? Rather, we're glamorizing something, westernized, glamorizing Western thought, glamorizing Western protocols, we're glamorizing Western philosophies. We're glamorizing all of that. But yet, we're forgetting what Chief Manuelito said over here. So, the question now to all of you is this. Are we kind of getting sucked into this whole westernized thought? Are we getting sucked into that? And the more we glamorize it, and the more we do that, we're getting sucked into it even more. So then that goes back to what Khaskinch el-Khajin said. We cannot become like them. We cannot become like them. So in essence, that seems to be happening here. Let's stop and ponder this. As parents, as grandparents, as educators, as leaders, as khatkhashis, as azzayenahashahas, as reverends and pastors and church leaders, spiritual leaders, as just a member of the Navajo Nation. Let's stop and think about this. What are we essentially doing here? Or what are we not doing here? Wait a minute. Atsasho. Or they say, atsawait. And it seems like it's very important today. It seems like it's going to have to come back to the home, the mother and the father, the grandmas and the grandpas. We're still going to have to go back to that. We know for a fact today, we know for a fact that nobody's going to do it for us. Especially our government, our state government, our federal government. They're not going to do it for us. That's the last thing on their list. So we have to come back together in our own homes, in our own little families here, and begin to advocate that to one another. It seems like that's where there is hope, that there is hope there. And so this is what I wanted to share with you today. And through that is that the glamorization of westernized thought, westernized practices, westernized laws, medicines, philosophies, counseling techniques, all of that. From 1868 all the way up to now, 2023, 155 years. How much progress have we made as a nation? how much progress? When you ask that question, people say, well, we don't have the wagon or the horse anymore. We don't have to use kerosene lamps anymore. We have automobiles. We have electricity. We have the modern conveniences. We have PlayStation now. We don't have to use. We have skate parks. Even a lot of our leaders are skateboarding now. We have all of that now. But that's not what they're talking about. That's not what Jinna was saying. If it was so effective, if it was so good, if everything was all wonderful, then how come we seem to be losing it on the other end? We're losing it. Case in point. Right before our eyes, people down in the valley took some of our relatives, came into our communities. It didn't start last week. It didn't start last month. It's been ongoing for years. They took advantage of our relatives that had alcohol problems, that had drug problems. They took advantage of them. They hauled them down there, and they made money off of it. Remember that? Anabin Sahakes. It's that same mentality again. We're too busy over here with whatever that we're busy with. We're too busy with ourselves. We're too busy with trying to be noted. Today, it seems like any kind of leadership say, oh, yeah, I got to be recognized. I got to be recognized. I did this. I said this. Hey, our leader said this. Now, let's take another picture here. Let's take another picture here. We're too busy with that. But yet, right under our eyes, this happened. We were too busy that we couldn't even create a building, a program, a place for our relatives to stay in to get help. We were too busy. Right under our eyes, they stole them from us. They made money off of it. An hiit Navajo, Nikachigo. We were too busy. We should have provided those homes for them. We should have done all of that. We should have put all of our BS to the side and say, hey, this person needs help. But rather, they're just over here, they're just over there. We can't even appropriate enough money for them. That's what this teacher Jinnah was talking about. So let's stop. Let's re-examine this. We pump up our children so much that the westernized education is so much that today there's that inferiority concept that they deal with as well. Rather than helping somebody, they want to be the attention now. These situations are there. And so those kind of things we need to stop and think. And just based on the Treaty of 1868 and what took place today, 155 years ago, that's what we're saying and that's what we're doing. And think about that. But don't just think about it. Have a discussion about it. Have a good, meaningful discussion, because through that discussion, I'm not saying argue. I said have a discussion about and begin to put some things into place, into motion with yourself first, then your family, your children, grandchildren. That's where it all begins. That's going to be the encouragement and the challenge I'm going to throw out. 1 year from today, I'm going to come back again and I'm going to assess and say, okay, last year, 2023, this is what I talked about for all of you to ponder, for you to consider, and for you to think about. Where are we at today? And hopefully I've provoked enough feelings, I have provoked enough thought to where that it would transpire into something that's very productive and tangible. Spend some time on the productivity in putting something that's long-lasting Concentrate on that. I know it's the easiest thing in the world. Start throwing trash, and it's full of it. Yeah, he's this way. What he's saying is wrong. I know it this way. This is who I am. He doesn't know nothing. Blah, blah, blah. Put that to the side. Take a break, I guess you could say. Concentrate on this other part. See where we can go with this. See where we're going to go with this. See how far we can get it. From today, tomorrow, the next day, midsummer, fall, winter, next year, next June. And so these are some thoughts that I wanted to share with you today. And for you to ponder, and then for you to have a good thought process. But the bottom line is, it's a prayer. It's a song. It's a teaching. It's so that something good can come out of it. That's my main reason. That's why I'm taking this time to make this presentation again on this day, June the 1st, 2023. And once again, my good relatives, I congratulate all the young people that graduated. Once again, our prayers have been answered. I want all of you to continue to be drug-free, alcohol-free. Take care of your mind, soul, body, and spirit. You only get one body, one mind, one spirit, just one time. That's it. So be careful what you ingest. Be careful how you take care of yourself. Be careful on what you use your eyes to look at. And be careful of what you use your hearing to listen to. Look at good things. Listen to good things. Be kind to one another. Be sincere with one another. Be truthful to one another. Be honest with one another. Take care of one another. Don't just look at somebody that's having a hard time and just go on your way. Try to stop, help them out. These kind of things. But most of all, don't forget to pray. Don't forget to feed your Holy Spirit that's inside of you. Don't forget with prayer. And those of you that that attend ceremonies, don't forget to feed your Holy Spirit, your inner spirit, your soul with that medicine, with that ceremonial tobacco. And those of you that go to church, take that offering, take that prayer, take that song, feed your Holy Spirit, your soul with that, and take care of yourselves. Akut edolih, akha, akut edolih.